attempt to represent them. I need to get the distance between their nose and mouth, the shape of their forehead right, in order to try and get a likeness. If I know my subject well, it's almost as if I don't need to look at them in order to give them intense attention, and yet I need their physical presence. The act of sitting is not a passive one. All my sisters, Rosalind, Lucy, Jane, and Kate, have their own relationship with the act of sitting. My sister Kate, who is the most regular of my sitter sisters, has written about how, when I first started to paint her, I would allow her to read a book, and that I only took the book away when I needed to paint her hands. These first paintings of Kate are wooden, and the vital spark is missing. Her understanding of how important it is to give herself to the experience of sitting has made the later paintings I have done of her come alive. I have done a series of paintings of her dressed in white. I imagine them hung in a long line in a gallery space, and I imagine the strong sense of peace that emanates from them. Kate became my main sitter after my mother became too old and frail to climb the 80 stairs to my studio. My mother had an instinct for what it takes to be a great sitter from the start. It became her vocation. She often used the time for prayer. I painted my son Frank regularly when he was little, and then he refused to sit for me when he became a teenager. He sat for me again in his mid-20s. He finds the silence of my studio oppressive, and so, when he sits, we listen to audiobooks. I think my paintings of Frank have a different energy for this reason. There is a lightness and freshness to them. My husband, Stephen Kupfer, prepares himself the night before he sits. He used to think about philosophy when he sat for me, but this always made him dream. He would see all sorts of strange forms in my painting clothes, which he was staring at as he thought, and he would soon fall asleep. Now he memorizes cryptic crossword clues the night before and solves them in his head as he sits. He has a ritual for the morning of sitting sessions. He gets up early and travels from his house in Kentish Town to Russell Square, where he is always the first person to arrive at the cafe in the square. He then reads philosophy for a while before it is time for him to arrive at my studio in Great Russell Street. In winter, I feel the cold, travelling up with him as he climbs the stairs to my studio, and it takes him a long time to thaw out. He likes the challenge of it all, and his ritual is part of the pleasure he takes in sitting. I think he needs his participation to be active. He is much more aware of his surroundings and of me at my easel, and doesn't drift off into his own world like my female sitters do. I have noticed that the men I have worked from are interested in the process of painting and in the act of sitting. The silence, when I am working from men, is less interior. Women, in my experience, find it easier to sit still and think their own thoughts, and they often hardly seem to be aware that I'm there in the same room. For this reason, I usually feel more peaceful when I'm working from a woman, and more free. I found sitting for Lucian challenging in a different way. He didn't like me going off into a world of my own. He wanted active participation. He would talk and ask me questions while he painted. He liked to watch his sitters in movement. He liked to watch how the mouths of his sitters were shaped by smiles or speech. He was more of a portrait painter in this way than I am. I would have preferred to think my own thoughts and be peaceful, but he wasn't having any of that. Since I started to write again, my paintings, which are so private and personal that there's almost a keep out sign in front of them, have begun to open out. I feel a new assurance in my painting, through a growing confidence about using words again. Through writing this memoir, I feel connected to my writing self, the young woman who used words. Memories of that time have become very vivid to me again. Lucian has resurfaced in my mind and my dreams through writing about my memories of him. I feel liberated by being able to put some of my feelings about him into words, and I can see more